Hey friends, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And we are excited today to have this community conversation. We know this past year has been a challenge for many folks, just with self-isolation, social distancing, and many things like that. Whether you have lost a job, your health has been declined, maybe you've lost a loved one. And so today we want to really bring some help and shed some light to some resources that you could find here in this conversation. I'm inviting some of my friends from the National Alliance of Health, Mental Health, with us today. And today we have Ray, who is the executive director here at Colorado Nami, and then Babu, who is the president of Colorado Nami. And so they have some incredible resources that they're going to throw out, and we're just going to have a conversation. Hopefully you find these are extremely helpful, and thanks for joining us today, Babu and Ray. We cherish your partnership. Just on my end, when I'm talking with folks that they need some help, NAMI is one of the first places that I direct them to. And so I just want to say thank you guys for everything that NAMI does. Thank you for everything that you do. And thank you for your partnership. It's much valued. So thanks for being here today. Hey, so as we're talking about this pandemic, we know that the pandemic has brought a lot of hurt, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, even depression into folks' home and their lives. And so I just want to ask you guys, what are some of the things that you have learned in working with the folks that have contacted you, whether it's even brought on by this pandemic, or maybe it's prior to the pandemic? What are some things that you're finding that people are really dealing with?
Babu, you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Ben, for inviting us. And I'm Babu George Matthew, President of NAMI Colorado, which is state organization for the largest grassroots organization in the nation, National Alliance on Mental Illness. So, yes, exactly. Maybe a year back when COVID hit us all, like the rest of the world, we were clueless. It was like being blindsided. And we had to work through like the rest of the world. And that shows the part of the human spirit in coping with this and being where we are today. But it has also brought so much of devastation in the lives of people, not just here or around the world. But we come from the field of mental health. I would say there is no health without mental health. So that's where we started. We were very much into personal engagement, which is very much required for people who go to live with mental health conditions where you need the touch, the human touch, to affirm that yes, I'm here with you, I'm there for you. That's exactly what is needed, and that's exactly what we wanted to do. But with the social distancing and physical distancing required by the COVID mandates, we had to work through the first 3 months of a time to transition all our programs to virtual platforms. And as a silver lining, perhaps, we have been able to talk to more people, but we still miss that physical engagement, which is required. We are people of community. We need that human touch. We need the personal relationships. So it is not as much of a social office. I mean, you need to do that, but what we need is emotional, connections. So that needs to be worked through our alliance here. We have done that, but much more than that in the community connections that you have been with your church and your communities in Aurora and everywhere.
Yeah, I know Eastern Hills is so thankful for what NAMI is doing and what they provide. We know that even after the threat of this pandemic is over, we're going to see people still battling these issues. We can look back at Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is still facing a devastating loss from Hurricane Maria, with people with PTSD, anxiety, depression. And so what are some of the things that maybe we should expect to see from this pandemic, COVID-19?
I'll share some data with you that going into 2020, the figure was 1 in 5 Americans experience some type of mental illness, which means, take my family as an example, if we're a family of 5, at least one of us is experiencing mental illness, and that sure enough is the case. What happened during the pandemic is anxiety, depression, isolation, those kind of things creeped into that 1 in 5 and brought it to nearly a 3 in 5. So it's okay to actually call it what it is I'm experiencing a higher level of anxiety now that we've gone through this, or my isolation has created a depression. And so what we're seeing is more people are experiencing this, but these may be people who weren't experiencing these things in the past, and so they don't necessarily know where to turn. So we're trying to get out there and talk to people about just ways to manage this, and that we use the hashtag You Are Not Alone, being able to say there's things you can do. Just following your daily routine is an example. When you get out of bed, make your bed, get dressed. It's okay to still wear slippers if you're on a Zoom, but we put on our button-down shirts to feel a little better about ourselves. So there's all these little things you can do, but there's also real help out there, and real help that's free. One of the beauties of Nami and the decades that it's existed is people can access the resources at no cost. And I would encourage people, one particular place that is just a wonderful resource is www.nami, that's NAMI.org/COVID-19. So COVID-19, but with the hyphen. That's a whole resource, because I can't tell you, Ben, what's going to work for you versus what's going to work for Babu. And so NAMI's put resources out there that really are across the board. If I'm feeling just loneliness, but I don't think it's depression, is that okay to still call the helpline? And the answer is yes. But if I'm experiencing a high recurrence of post-traumatic stress because of something that happened in my past, and now COVID has brought it back, then there's also some resources for that as well.
Wow. Hey, so if you're listening and you're like, hey, what are some of these resources? They are in the links below. So we have links. If you scroll down from this page here, we're going to have all of these links posted, the hashtag posted there for you as well. So don't feel like you have to rewatch this unless you are just, really wanting to go back and visit one of our conversations here. But all the links that have been mentioned in this video will be posted below. So scroll down, click on those links, make sure you visit them. Great resources. And so we are grateful again for all that NAMI does to help us here at Eastern Hills and in the community surrounding Eastern Hills. So we know that the isolation is really a struggle for many people. Younger people, they're experiencing loneliness as well. They might have more options with some school, with some sports and that sort of thing to kind of have that safe distance, but still be active and have some conversations, some experiences with other people. But older adults have taken precautions as they're high risk. I know that in many cases, older adults, they have isolated, they're shopping online, pick up grocery stores and that sort of thing. We know depression and isolation often go together. Elderly individuals who already feel isolated and far from loved ones might feel increased difficulties. What advice would you give to someone who is a parent with a parent of somebody high risk? how do we help them?
So, Babu, I'm going to share a quick story and then
Yep.
turn it over to you, because I'm blessed
Yep.
that my mom lives but a very short distance from us, but still, because of safety and protocols that were suggested by some very trusted resources. And I would remind people that the Centers for Disease Control, as an example, or Nami, are posting very trustworthy long history of putting the messages out there. Find sources that you trust, and that includes your personal physician, your pharmacist, your clergy, people that you can count on, that you trust, and don't feel like you have to absorb yourself in the news and everything like that. And the one worry about isolation is, I'm so proud of my mom for getting on virtual concerts and bringing back music into her house. And even if she's not watching it, she's listening to it. Or going to Arapahoe County or Adams County or Denver Public Library and for free getting classic movies. Go back and watch Casablanca if that's one of your favorite of all time. Or if you're more of a Star Wars fan, start watching the whole series of Star Wars movies again. And so there's ways to say, wait a minute, I have the benefit of time and the benefit of a computer. How can I use this? And if you don't have the computer, you can still get books on tape and CDs and DVDs and things like that. So use the library resources. They may not be physically open in some cases, but all of them have access to these. And even some, like Denver Public Library, will deliver them to you if you can't do curbside pickup. So I use my mom as an example, as that she is actively on these concerts and these Blessed by DU having these series on racial diversity and equity and issues of racial justice that she's getting on. And if she's doing it, I know that millions of other Americans who were once feeling isolated have the company of other people popping up on their screens. Babu, you might want to speak about your own experience, or perhaps some things Nami Colorado is doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, on a personal front, while I celebrate and I'm blessed with the lives of my parents, I'm glad that they're not here on the face of this earth, because this earth has changed completely. So when you mentioned about how when we get out of COVID, that is not going to be something which we switch. It's going to be with us. This globe, this planet is learning to coexist in a very different way from centuries back, So what we do at NAMI is our message, message of hope is that you matter, we see you, and we will walk alongside you. We try to do that. We are only so many in NAMI, but we try to have those community connections where we can get the partnerships of people like you and organizations like you who are in touch with your congregations and with your communities every day almost. At least once a week, when you have the worship services, you talk to them. So the message that we need to pass on is that you matter, we see you, we will walk alongside you. It is not easy most of the time, but if at NAMI, what we are trying to do is an outreach to the interfaith communities, where we believe the community leaders and the faith leaders should be the frontline responders in crisis, not just mental health crisis. When you give that message to them that they matter and that we are in touch with you, you cannot do it alone, Ben, but there are so many in your church community who can do the outreach to people who are isolated, especially the older folks. So that, of course, and you mentioned about the youth, that they have resources. No, recently Ray and I had the chance to attend a conversation done by Colorado Public Radio, talking with 3 youth members, how it is affected. One thing is that as we talk to the older generation, we also need to listen to the younger generation. They come with a wealth of resources and inputs. We often talk them down. We often find ways to tell them, this is exactly what we want to do. I mean, from my ancient brain, things have changed. So it is valid. We need to let our young people lead and hear them because they are so valid. In a mental health crisis, what we do is that we try to affirm them that they are okay. Like, I have shared a hashtag with you, okay, not to be okay. That is exactly the message that we need to give everyone because none of us are free from this. Mental health doesn't discriminate at all. It affects everyone. So you are not alone. That we all can do our part in giving that message that people matter, and that we will find some time to be with them.
Yeah, that's great, Babu, and thank you for sharing that, Ray. I think those are some great tips. I had never even thought about the library, so that's great. Hey, real quick, I want to kind of transition to the loss that COVID has brought, whether that is the loss of attending something, maybe it's the loss of a job, the loss of graduation. We know, I know a handful of students that they didn't have, a prom, a graduation. They didn't have the end of the year celebrations. Maybe it's a loss of a loved one, a death brought on. Even the loss of trust. We have come to this point now, and I shared with you guys earlier that we're not sure what media to trust at times, just because we hear this and we hear that, whether it's from a health profession or a political person, maybe sometimes even a religious organization. Talk to me real quick about how do we regain trust? How do we cope with the loss of, whether again it's the social distancing, we've lost friendships, we've lost financial jobs, maybe it is the loss of a loved one, loss of trust. Can you guys address some of those? And I know that's a wide range of things that I'm throwing out, but maybe you can help with at least one or a couple of them.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I think one of the things that you keep hearing, Babu, and I remind you of, is that should never be isolated. There are always resources out there. To all of you who have a phone sitting literally in the palm of your hands right here, is if you just text Nami, Nami, to 741-741. So we'll make sure we get that up as well. Nami to 741-741. That's a text line for those in crisis. And being able to say grief is a crisis, is I need somewhere to turn. And in some cases, talking to someone you don't know is easier. And in other cases, is talking to a loved one makes it easier. We can't determine that for you, but the experts who are managing that text line, or if you call the local NAMI, 303-321-3104, we've got experts answering that as well. And they will direct you to all of these incredible resources out there. And that one that I mentioned earlier, that COVID-19 resource, has things like 7cups.com and emotionsanonymous.org and forlikeminds.com. There are a lot of, so you were talking about trust, Ben. NAMI spends hours upon hours upon hours validating resources that are out there. They've done the hard work to make sure that the sites and the resources that NAMI is sharing are trusted resources. They're evidence-based practices of decades of peer support networks. And so we've got programs for veterans called Homefront. We have a program for the youth that Babu was talking about called Ending the Silence, and making sure that kids know it's okay to speak up. And then we have them for family members or people with their own personal lived experience. So knowing that a place like NAMI exists that is doing the hard work to find trusted resources out there, and then partnering with churches like yours to be able to reiterate, this is a resource we trust and why we're partnering with them, and that we'll continue to build those partnerships. So I would encourage you, whether you want to text or you want to call or you want to go on the website, those are the trusted resources that are in front of you. You don't have to do the research. We've already done it for you.
It's great.
Yeah, if I were to add to that, Ben, one thing which is missing, like you rightly said, is the trust factor. How do you regain trust? Tell the truth. Keep telling the truth. That is missing in us. So nothing can fix anything. I mean, in what the ailment that we have in our public square is that loss of trust. So if you keep telling the truth, it will stick sometime. But if you keep telling the lies, it'll also stick. So that's where we need to be. As Nami is concerned, like Ray said, we had manifold amount of calls. Nami was the one organization which was contacted during this COVID time for helpline on our helplines. So people are suffering through this. They need someone to connect to, so they need someone to talk to. So we all could be those people whom people can come and talk to. Let me tell you, Ray showed the cell phone. I have only one child, my daughter. She has a diagnosis of clinical depression. So on a given day, it's an achievement to get out of bed at times when she's going through depression. But during this COVID time, we have talked to her. We affirm her that you can do this, and she does that. And she has reconnected with so many of her friends during during this COVID time, and she has been able to talk to them. They are friends, so that helps. But let me go back to we have all those resources. We can share those resources that we have with you. I go to, on the first and third Thursdays of every month, I go to a support group called Nami Family Support. That has literally saved my life. I have been doing that from 2015 because when I was helping my daughter through her depression, I forgot that I needed help. Every one of us need help. And I came to a breaking point. That's when I found Nami Family Support. We come together in a place where we tell our stories, knowing that it will not go out anywhere. And it is within that group. So what we need is to create safe sanctuaries for people to come and share and talk. That can be done online as well. You don't have to meet in person.
That's great. Hey, I want to say thank you guys so much for joining us. All these resources are going to be at the bottom of this page. This is actually the first part of this interview, and we were going to be excited to offer a second part, and we're going to be talking more about what Babu was just talking about, is the support groups, self-care. So join us next week as we give you more resources and we further this community conversation about mental health during and after the pandemic. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, we'll be back next week to talk more about those resources.
Thank you.